This is a panel on stablecoin, on what is happening with this new trend, especially as it concerns to real-world assets and the tokenization of the same. This is a concept we discussed the first time maybe in 21 and looked at some early stage players in tokenization of the proposed tokenization of real-world assets. So we are here to now look at what is the next step in doing this, how to actually make this successful, and looking at what has happened recently with the meme coin, and then what is happening in the crypto markets. I will turn this over to Alexandre. Alexandre, where are you joining us from today? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm joining you from just outside of Paris, lovely countryside of France. And I'm basically here, because I'm an impact investor and I've been in the family office business for a while and been really looking at new technologies that are emerging from, what was once thought of as a simple bank transaction to new methods that basically were faster, smarter, safer than traditional systems like Swift. And it created a whole new conversation with my trusted partner, who unfortunately couldn't join us today, named Vishnu, who's, we realized, traditional, finance was going to somehow start to shift into a new asset class, which was the crypto markets. And whether they thought of it as pure gambling or real investment, that's a whole other story that we can enter at some other time. But certainly, certainly it caught a lot of people's attention and they started to diversify their portfolio very, 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 very slowly, but surely, as certain markets, let's just say, began to spring at very big velocity numbers. So here we are today, a lot of people using USDT as their, reference to get in and out of crypto markets, and certainly paying your taxes along the way, depending on where you're registered to trade. But this is now becoming a new ecosystem of stable coins and things that are going to be basically a mishmash of different technology coming together. I think this is going to be about a few different things, Anand. It's going to be about preserving US dollar hegemony around the world. In some capacity, you have to be thinking under this new administration coming in, which is today Donald Trump's, day to become the 47th, U.S. president. And I think I wish, the United States all of, the best to lead the world in a, fair and balanced manner. And I hope this administration can deliver a peaceful, administration that can be a peacemaker around the world. I really sincerely believe that that's possible, and I hope that that's the case. But here we are in a moment, I think, that is transitional, let us just say, as an understatement, from what we were used to doing to transact to using new apps and perhaps super apps that will be able to transact in a different way. And those ways will be tied to what we call RWAs, real world assets, that will be tied to blockchain. And so here we are, early days, as they would say, in this massive transformation of digital assets that are going to flow on what we would say are different ramps, different rails, different on and off ramps for a stable coin to shift into another asset or crypto. And what we're working on is a yield generating stable coin, so that while you're thinking about it, as if you were holding it in the bank, you actually can deliver some yield. So it's all about what the philosophy of the crowd will want, what the market will demand, and what kind of service will you be providing, and what kind of security during that service will you be providing? Because everybody's worried about that, right? Cybersecurity, huge new budget in Pentagon, uh, all over the world, because we know that that's going to be one of our soft targets, if you will, right? Not to get too geopolitical about all of this, but this will be part of the conversation ultimately. And so, what coins will you trust? Which ones will have utility? Which
Well,
ones will have,
obviously, I mean, I'm going to answer that question for you and say, yeah, the asset-backed coins will certainly look much better. And especially if you're tying a coupon to it and you're making it a producing coin, then I might as well just have a convert at that point, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you just created a wonderful financial instrument to which I'm used to.
yes. And from your mouth to God's ears, as they say, we want our adoption to be vigorous this year. So we want to provide something that is not provided in the marketplace right now. So market fit is very important for us, and timing. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the administration that's coming into the United States is going to make it it's going to be fertile ground to launch a lot of different types of projects. And certainly, a lot of people had heard, or a very few people, I should say, but certainly the news hit once the president's coin hit a few days ago, a
Right.
58,000 spike. People realize it's possible to launch a meme coin as long as you have the following, as long as you have the strategy. And um, it's going to be kind of the wild, wild west, I think, in certain ways.
All right. Do you
And
think we're heading in the NFT direction? I mean, is this another NFT boom in its making?
it won't be called that. It'll be called something else. But I'll reserve, what I think is really going to be the thorn is, if it's overregulated, it's going to be stifled in the United States. But in this administration, there's going to be renewed confidence that we can be the leaders in AI development and manufacturing. And that's one of the key areas that America wants to lead in, is those two areas, and robotics, obviously, because we're going towards a new type of era where we're going to be distance fighting in with different types of robots in the very near future. It's going to be really, I think, important for us to harmonize all of this by dialogue and putting safeguards on AI, robotics, anything that could eventually threaten humanity, that, we should not discount. We should not discount the whole Terminator scenario.
Right.
We're not there yet. We're
Yeah.
not there yet, but we could be there shortly. So I think it's good to have these very serious conversations, and new ways to create governance that makes people feel safe, because we want to make sure that economies thrive and grow so that everybody believes in the dream that wealth is achievable in their lifetime. And that's a
Yeah, not
that's a
only
key.
wealth, but I mean the more important thing I think that people are looking for is being able to, and regardless at what level, is being able to enjoy their abundance, right? I mean, one of the problems that we
Yes,
have is when we don't have peace, we don't have
yes,
this. So,
yes, yes.
as you are, as Stephen Melnick this morning said, and you and Stephen worked together in the Lives Amplified side of it. When you create something like this, a stable coin or a meme coin or whatever it is that you would do, um, can we create a coin for peace?
Absolutely. And the truth is, it's about attention and how do you get people's attention. That's a very, very important thing. I'm writing something about that right now, Anand, that I'll be releasing very soon because that's the commodity I'm most interested in is your attention. And there is a reason for that. We have the capacity to really touch people's hearts if we have the proper platforms and the other ecosystem around that supports all of the communication channels that it needs to go to in order to bring people together. More, of this, dialogue and more of this collaboration, which is, linked to trade, economic prosperity, all good things that we can do together as long as we're not fighting over silly things. And this is again through and through when I have my conversations with you with providing a place that people can transact and trust. And the dollar is still the most trusted currency that we didn't, pick any currency. I mean, you know, we picked the dollar on purpose because we know that the dollar will still have hegemony for quite some time. But whatever the universe calls for next, I don't want to be a prognosticator. We need to work with what's on the table right now. Things are not going to flip from one day to the next. We are in a transitional time, and it's going to be a time that people adapt to having new type of crypto wallets and new types of identity protection because again, cybersecurity, identity protection, very important subjects to tap into. So yeah, as we talk more about all of this, we realize we're much more aware in some ways, but we're a lot more fallible in other ways because our identity is swimming around out there. And that's going to be our next conversation, which is things that are yours are not necessarily yours online.
Absolutely. No, no, absolutely. I mean that's I mean I've invited you to join that discussion when we talk about data sovereignty, not just at a individual level, but at a nation level. So does one nation have the right to go into another nation and gather its resources? And at this point, since data is the new currency, is that international theft? And
Absolutely.
so it's a
I,
but we will discuss
it's
that. What I wanted to come back to on the stable coin side of it is that when you create a smart contract, a piece of art. We've had this theoretical discussion of saying, we take a beautiful piece of art and we create fractional ownership in it. And yet, at
mm,
the same time, those people that are investing in it are looking at it from a long term perspective, right? And saying, okay, this art is going to appreciate, but we can still leave it in a museum. We don't have to put it in
yeah,
a Swiss vault so
that's
that
right.
it disappears along with some of the greatest art in the world. That sits in these dungeons in Switzerland and the mountains that nobody has seen for decades. Which is just a sad thing because art
Yes.
is to be appreciated, and I've always had this discussion
Very.
with many people in just saying, I'm glad you bought the painting, but the fact of it is neither are you enjoying it nor is anybody else going to enjoy it because the bank that you are involved with has got it in Switzerland, and that's it, and it's not
Yeah.
going anywhere, and you can't even go view it if you wanted to. So what is the point? It's just purely an
Yeah.
investment. So what I
Mhm.
think smart contracts and stable coins and such provide, and especially for real world assets, is not just liquidity for investors but also fractional ownership, which opens up a whole other level of investors. And this is, I mean, again, keeping regulatory requirements in mind and jurisdictions and all that sort of stuff. But I think it opens up a wonderful area for being able to monetize assets which would otherwise be very difficult to monetize in a more democratized way, if you would.
Let's hope that we can accelerate the adoption of that model. It's coming, and there'll be a lot of new payment systems. That's why a lot of people are speculating that it could be Doge if Elon Musk has his way to move money through his Twitter platform and perhaps even an acquisition in the fate of TikTok. But there's another story that lingers about all of this is what will happen now? Will it be digital dollar? Most probably. How will they quickly get it adopted? Who knows? Decentralized systems now have opened the Pandora's box wide open.
Mhm.
And once it's out of once the genie's out of the bottle, as you know, Anon, you
Yeah, no,
can't
no, of
just
course. I mean, when that was the interesting debate when we started talking or restarted talking about blockchain, right? In the 12, 13, 14 time frame, and saying, look, this is going to change. Yes, it's taken a little bit longer than we thought it would. We thought the acceleration would be much, much more, but then we had a pandemic in the middle, so I guess we'll forgive ourselves for not accelerating as fast as we could have.
yeah.
But yes, now I see that, as the world moves forward, digital currency it is the future, right? I mean, so certainly there should also be this digital investment vehicles. And I think that that's why I wanted to have a discussion with you and saying, as a family office, I mean, given the choices that you have today in investments and the hundreds and hundreds of offers that are out there for everything, um, how comfortable are you in making a digital investment?
Well, in terms of into the cryptocurrency sphere,
Or anywhere. Let's say I gave you a real world
I,
asset token.
oh, you mean where would I put it in a portfolio of things that I
Yeah,
hold and right
yeah.
now? Oh, it just depends. I'm doing things even on the commodities side now that are involved with real world asset, tokenization. I believe in all of this. So I believe that also we're going to have a new shift in the way governments treat contracts because we're going to, want more solidity in international law. So I think as you touched upon earlier on smart contracts that really bind that contract in a way that's immutable will be, hopefully the design of the future. Um, there's going to be a lot of kinks that need to still be worked out. But again, my colleague Vishnu is working on something that's also very important, which is, multi-party compute to make
Mhm.
sure that cybersecurity is, at the highest level of cryptography, and quantum, computer resistant in terms of its power to hack into our current computers that we have, laptops as we know today, right? Because all of this is coming at such a fast pace. It's almost as if we're now, after accelerating from 60s to 80s to 80s to 2000 to 2000 now to 25, and whoa, that was now, we just did a big gigantic leap now into technology and using AI on all levels of human operation. It's permeating all aspects of our society. And, I've known about AI because we worked on an AI project 15 years ago on basically figuring out how a person reacts to their treatment and how to self-quantify your body treatment by actually entering more input about yourself. So it was an AI model back then, training it to graph your health data, all of it, a, a, a trader would monitor, a particular trade, all in a graph. But it was early, but we knew that AI was going to continue to grow because it was nothing but more flourishing and growth in that space. And now you're going to see even more velocity as AI works on other AI, and there's more and more, let's just say, cross-pollination within the, design community on what they're going to want to collaborate on and perhaps then hoard. We're at this very interesting crossroads where different AI companies are claiming a certain amount of market share, and they're just, like little pods growing on the horizon, and you can see it coming.
Yeah,
You
no, no,
can see it.
absolutely. I mean, look at it, what a big giant leap we've made in telemedicine, as you pointed out. We went from that process that you talked about to today, where diagnosis is guaranteed to be better if you do it by AI, as opposed to a physician. And the same thing. We had a panel earlier today about AI and the law. And looking
Mhm.
at all sides of it, and this, and not just the side of where AI needs to be, to be regulated, but more importantly on how AI was changing how lawyers work, how the law is working, how easy it's becoming, how less resource intensive it's becoming, um, and but the criminal justice system and the court systems all have to be upgraded as well, and everything has to work together. So the problem, as you know, in sometimes in development, is that we can develop or overdevelop in an area, but then we have to sit back and wait for the rest of it to come in. And this is a dangerous point for investors, right? Because investors who get into the early side of a certain area now have to wait for infrastructure to catch up to it, for the monetization to happen that they were promised. But in when we talk about, coins, when we talk about whether it's Doge coins, whether we talk about any of the coins that are out there, this is a much more easier to market strategy if the legalities of it can be worked out, if the enforcement of the legalities can be worked out in jurisdictions. So, the challenge I see sometimes in smart contracts is, you're in Paris. If I give you something from which is domiciled in Delaware in the US, it is very difficult for you to actually, to for you to execute that contract should there be a negative event. So it's a very interesting field, and I think that was part of the discussion that we wanted to have earlier today, is just saying, if we're going to develop the AI side of it, the law side of it has to catch up. And as you said, there needs to be some form of streamlined, international. The international courts at this point are not equipped to do anything, at all, much less contract negotiation and contract dispute. So, if we're going to do hundreds and thousands of contracts, why are we not using an AI underneath that court system to build the infrastructure we need to enforce the contracts that we can do, right? And so, yeah, so I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from, and what is happening. But coming back to kind of, what is your vision for the future? What do you see happening 5, 10 years down the road? Because we are no longer talking, when we talked previously about 5 years, there was not much technology development in that time period. Technology cycles were longer than 5 years. So it wasn't a question of, oh, computers are going to be bigger and better and faster. There's going to be AI or anything of those kinds. Today, we're talking about quantum. If quantum comes in, what are your thought process?
Well, it'll be really about, as I mentioned before, having a quantum computer resistant shield around you, which will be your cybersecurity shield, which will be basically a DID, which is a digital ID, which will give you another layer of cybersecurity through your iris, through your thumbprint, and other things that will become available now, and including, all of your facial recognition capabilities now that the AI camera can capture on your face. So we will have that for sure. But that's going to be, I would say, our Passport 3.0, Anand.
Yeah.
for
Yes,
lack of a
absolutely.
better word.
No, no, and I think you're right. I mean, when you look at, there was in the in the 2000s, India embarked on the unique ID program, where they made sure that every Indian had a unique ID with biometrics, with all sorts of information on a chip. And it
Mm,
was fairly advanced, even more advanced than some of the EU cards. And
yeah.
the concern was abuse, right? The concern was how secure is this data? Because all of a sudden you've taken the biometrics of every citizen in your country and you have put it somewhere, and that somewhere is sitting behind 7 layers of something, which is probably not encrypted to the optimum side. And how easy is it going to be for that information to go haywire, and for the abuse to start? And
Yes.
so yeah, so now that quantum computing is coming, yes, that is a huge concern for everyone, because the more information we have, and as you spoke about, the information that we have out there, firstly, half of it isn't ours anyway. We've already signed it away, right? So at the end of the day, we forget all these little details, but yeah, it's a different world coming up. So final thoughts from you.
Yeah. Well, we got to give everybody a healthy reminder that that data out there is theirs, but not theirs until they claim it. And so we have to reclaim all of our data firstly and find the right legislators that are going to demand that from Congress and other nations around the world that want to safeguard their citizens. There'll always be those who want to be off the radar, and there's nothing that you can do about those people. They're, never on a journey, let's just say. But the other ones will probably end up having a digital ID that's tied to their nation, just like their passport. So, and that'll have just a lot more layers of data to confirm that it's you. Um,
Exactly.
that's just where we're going, realistically. And and uh, hopefully, and I say this again sincerely, we have, no matter who's sitting as the US president, someone that's sound of mind, that will not trigger, a major conflict and you know, a really nasty war, because anything that we would get engaged in right now would be very nasty with, the geopolitical circumstances that are set right now. And so we
Yeah.
have to avoid that. We have to focus on innovating in business, creating, jobs and making other jobs obsolete that, don't need to be there. And the ones that, we will end up having a lot of robotic solutions for will create more time for man eventually. It just we have to look at it both pragmatically and philosophically, because this may be maybe 20, 25 years into the future. It's very possible with the acceleration of what is going on today. It's very possible. So for me, I always talk about what do I see in the foreseeable future? Because you can, imagine the spaceships and all you want, but I'm going to talk to you about 30 years jump as opposed to 75-year jump. But all of that's possible. But here's where people forget is that there's still a transition. We're still in this slow paper money coin transition, and it's going to take time for people to, adapt to the digital currency. Although most of their money in a bank is sitting in what would
It's all
be,
digital now. Yeah. Yeah. It's all
yeah,
digital. You're using your credit cards, you're using your debit cards. It's all become digital money at that point. You are losing value
yeah,
in that money. You're doing exactly all the things that digital money would do that you're worried about digital money doing. So it shouldn't
yeah,
be a barrier in transition, right? Because once people realize that what they're already doing is exactly the same thing which digitization is talking about. So there is no
yes,
real difference, right? But yeah, no, I mean, look, the future is coming, and it's good that folks like you are preparing, are investing in the right opportunities, are bringing thought leadership forward, which is going to guide how this goes. And but at the same time, we sometimes have to take a step back and say, yeah, but as you said, the most essential thing is that we stay peaceful, that we don't get into global engagements, that we don't get into or that there are no more flare points around the world, which could result in um, something much more serious. We have already come as close as we can to, another a war that would involve all of Europe and most of Asia, um, and uh, and certainly the United States in some form. So yes, with that, I'm going to say to you is that stay tuned. And I'm telling you, the future is a little bit faster, Alexander, because, one of the panels is about James Bond's car, which is now available for
Mhm.
you to buy, which is you can drive it to the airport and you can fly away in it. And it is already ready to manufacture. It has been approved by the FAA, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a panel about that. Stay tuned. But thank you so much for
Okay.
coming on. I really appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And again, I invite you to come back to our data sovereignty panel because I think that'll be a very interesting panel. Paulo will be there, and let's see who else will be there. There'll be some really interesting people that are so affluent in the data side of knowledge that it'll be a really fun contract, but no, fun panel. But with that, thank you so much. I appreciate you and look
Yeah.
forward to it. We are going to end the show here today because our last panel, Deborah is unfortunately on Fox News right now, and her stay on Fox News has been extended for her comments on the current inauguration ceremony. So with that, we will say good night for today to those in Europe and around the world, and have a wonderful day if you're on the West Coast, and the rest of your day. Alexandre, again, thank you.